Hey everybody, Fred Minnick here. It's time to sip on some Maker's Mark, their limited edition series. This is the BRT series, stands for barrel rotation. I just dropped a glass. Oops, I'll have to pick that up when it comes time to tasting. Barrel rotation technique. I got batch 1 right here, which is an American oak stave finish that is finished on the upper floors. The upper floors of the rick house get hotter, and so this whole thing is an ode to rotating barrels to take advantage of the temperatures inside the warehouse. And then you have batch 2, which is finished with French oak staves, very similar to Maker's 46. So French oak staves on the lower floors, which gets colder. Now, I am so excited about Maker's Mark and Buffalo Trace and Wild Turkey, really paying attention to these singular warehouse aging techniques and putting out these releases, because that gives us, the consumers, an opportunity to see the differences between a top floor, a bottom floor, things that I've been able to go in a warehouse over the course of my career and taste and see how dramatically different a middle floor is than a bottom floor. It is fascinating. Now, if it's a heat-cycled warehouse like Michter's uses or Brown-Forman, that can create a little bit more consistency throughout the warehouse, and you don't have those elevations. So not every brand that exists for bourbon will this be important to. So these would be brands like Willett, Jim Beam, Wild Turkey, Four Roses. All these Four Roses, those single-story warehouses, so less important for them because they don't have the variation in climate for up to 7 stories. But my point is that there's a lot of opportunity for us to understand how a warehouse works and for us to be able to taste the differences between warehouses and floors of warehouses and even the individual ricks. Now, Colonel Taylor has had a release out on this. The Wild Turkey's had a rick house one, a single rick house. Wild Turkey's actually the only company that has marketed it as a single rick house. Maker's Mark is coming out as floors, and they're using their stave finishes. So I think there's a lot of room here to create individual branding. So I think there's a lot of things here that we can see an elevation of what we would consider small batching. Like I point out to the Russell's Reserve one, they're calling it a single rick house. That has a lot of implication down the road. This series is measuring the floors, so I'm excited to see what's next. But of course, I got to pick up my glass. I'm going to pick up my glass and let's start tasting. So I'm going to start with the BRT-1. Now, it's 109 proof. These are available nationwide. They're $60. And these are all finished. The BRT-1 are finished with American oak. Now, the differences between American oak and French oak are pretty drastic. I'll go ahead and pour the batch 2 as well. They're pretty drastic in terms of like you break them down chemically. But to put kind of like simply, French oak has more tannic acid in it, so they will yield a spicier note. So the American oak can take the aggression of an upper floor, I think, a lot better than French oak could. They need Maker's Mark and their quest for their Maker's 46 project, making it perfect perfect as best they could. They basically carved out a very cold area because if it gets too hot, it just kills that acid, that tannic acid just kills the whiskey. It just overpowers it. So you can really see a big difference between those two staves. If you age the French oak on a higher floor, you can taste a huge difference than if it was a little bit more cold. So here we go. Here's to batch 1. Oh, I'm sorry, BRT-1. butterscotchy, charcoal brick. This feels amazing on the tongue. It feels like butter on here. The BRT-1 is gorgeous. There's not an over oak note here. There's not a smoky note. While I smelled some charcoal on the nose, obviously, it did not in any way, shape, or form taste smoky or woody. This is Butterscotch City. Butterscotch City. I'm going to taste it again to try and figure out the finish. I just love the way this feels on my tongue. This is just, it canvases my entire tongue, curls up underneath like butter. This is beautiful. BRT-1 is gorgeous. Love this. Hugely love this. This is available, and I've seen it in stores. It's sticking around like that $60 price point. Wow. Beautiful finish. Butterscotch City. Okay, so now I'm going to go to the BRT-2. This is a product, again, French oak staves. How this works is they pop open the barrel and they put these little stave inserts inside the barrel. I'll put some photos and a link to like how the process that they use in the description if you want to learn more. Completely different whiskey. You definitely can tell that this is different. It's so many. I mean, I smelling these two, it's like I would not, if I were smelling these blind, I would not believe these came from the same distiller. That's how drastically different these two are. No, so this one's coming off. It smells like a fresh bag of popcorn, buttered popcorn, and then like black pepper. Wow. This is another banger. Holy crap. So it does not come on the palate like BRT-1, which was like a butterscotch bomb for me. This is quite a bit more complicated. This has more than one note going for it. There's a lot of spice here, but the spice is coming off to me to be like pepper spices. Like this is very maybe like a hatch chili or a New Mexico red chili. This has a lot of kind of like New Mexico flavors to me. So if you're from New Mexico, if you've been to New Mexico, you know how they will put the red chilies on their doors and they kind of let them dry out. And, we get that every year. I'm a big fan of that red chili for some carne adobada action that we make at home. But this is absolutely gorgeous. It's very spicy, very much outside of the flavor wheel that I normally associate with Maker's Mark. And again, that's got to be that French oak stave. And they have figured out how to really maximize the French oak staves at Maker's Mark with their Maker's 46 project and now their private selection process. So I got to imagine that BRT-2 is the result of 10 years of trial and error with French oak, because not everyone can pull this off as well. I'm going to taste it again to come up with the finish. Let's keep that spice train conversation going. There's some like Chinese allspice in here. And then we come in with some really beautiful baking spices like clove, cardamom. And then after all of that, after the spice kind of dissipates a little bit, then this beautiful I want to say citrus note comes forward, some additional fruits like pear and peach, and then it finishes with like a peppermint. But I don't get any of like the traditional Maker's Mark notes for me, like caramel or butterscotch. I think that this has completely changed what Maker's Mark traditionally is, and that is like a caramel or butterscotchy bomb for me. Now, everyone's different. Everyone tastes differently. Taste for yourself. But I'm just telling you what I normally get out of Maker's Mark. I'm not getting out of this one. I'm getting this. If I were tasting this blind, I would start making assumptions that this was a high rye because that spice content is so powerful. That is that French oak stave going to work, and just a beautiful, beautiful tasting here. Now, the question is, because this is what I do. I always have to pick, if I'm tasting two, I got to pick a favorite, right? Question is, which one do I like more? Do I like the butterscotchy bomb in the BRT-1, or do I like the spice bomb in BRT-2? So I think it might be a mood thing. However, I think I know where I'm going to go. I'm going to rinse my palate out, though. I'm going to go back in. I'm going to taste this. Do a little taste off. Yeah. I think I like BRT-1 just a touch better. I really like the. I think if you're going to corner me, ask me to choose between butterscotch and spice, I'm probably always going to pick butterscotch. Call me a sweet tooth, but I'm a big fan of how that feels on the palate. And but I think if I'm having a craving for spice, I'm probably reaching for BRT-2 right now over just about everything. It's a beautiful, beautiful whiskey, and I will say that it's a matter of preference, and my preference on this one is going to be with the butterscotch bomb. So BRT-1 would be my favorite, and that's going to do it for this little tasting. If you'd like to see more tastings, click the subscribe button. I'm trying to churn as much out as I possibly can, but I've been doing whiskey reviews for a long time. Be sure to check out one of my books, Bourbon, The Rise, Fall, and Rebirth of American Whiskey, or Bourbon Curious, are two that I highly recommend if you're getting into bourbon. But that's going to do it this week, folks, or today. Be safe out there. Remember, vodka sucks unless it's being used for hand sanitizer. Cheers.